Welcome, people, to another segment of Win with Glenn, where today we're going to discuss a very popular topic, and that is of success.
Welcome to the Win with Glenn video podcast, where Glenn Henderson and special guests will give you the tips, insight, and tools you need to grow, develop your business and career. Go with us as we dive into the best practices and rock-solid principles that will elevate you and bring proven success. Now, here's Glenn Henderson.
So today we're going to be talking about success, and with me is Jim Chambers. Jim, welcome again.
Glad to be here.
We have been talking about these very popular topics. Success, too frequently people think of success in a very narrow way. It's either I've succeeded or I failed.
Right.
And I would like us to help folks to really understand what is success, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about what failure is, if there is failure, and then success in the context of winning. And I know in our day and age, people talk about who's to blame. I wasn't successful, and especially in business and maybe even in life. I think a deeper dive into what success truly is, and I will see if I can frame it up, and then see if you can, with all of your background, see what your experience is. But I think, and I've always characterized success as using everything you have to the fullest of your ability, versus, because people talk about winning and losing, and they'll say, well, I wasn't successful. And especially in business, I think people truly need to understand what is success, so that you can navigate through life and understand, yes, I actually am winning.
Right.
And so, from your experience, and I know you talk and work with businesses, success, what would you?
Yeah, I have the same perspective as you do. It's not being goal driven, like you have to have goals, financial goals,
Right.
customer service goals, all of that. But success as a whole can't be defined by I reached that goal. That's not success. Success is how well I did between now and then.
Right.
It's using all the resources that I have, all the abilities, the talents, the people that I have, the product or service, all of those things together to achieve something, to
Right.
become a best practice organization. I think it's dangerous to define success too narrowly.
Right.
To say, well, it's winning the game. No, it's improving the team. The team's a 7, and by the end of this game, we lost the game, but we're at a 9 now. We're performing at a 9.
Right,
I don't know if
right.
that makes sense,
Yes.
but that, to me, that's success. I understand you want to win the game, but when it comes to customer service, when it comes to delivery of products and services, right, to your end users, you may be at one level now, but you're shooting for success. There's not an end point in it.
That's right.
There's
Right.
not one. It's not like there's a Super Bowl
Right.
and that's the end of that.
Right.
It's a daily issue. Because the reason I say that, let me add this. If you don't look at success that way, you're going to be unfulfilled all the time.
Right.
You're going to be unfulfilled until you think you're going to win that one thing. You're going to succeed at that one thing. Whereas in business, you need to feel good about it every day.
Right.
It's a journey that you're on.
Well, I think both professionally, let's say in business and in life, people like to just keep a scorecard. And so, and I understand scorecards are important, benchmarking, and we're going to be talking about those concepts, but it can't be some of the cliches that we've heard over the many years. Whoever dies with the most toys win, and that typically is successful. And I know factually that people, how big is your organization, and so
How many employees do you have?
right, and you measure success based upon size, or somebody might even measure success based upon profitability, and that truly is not success. I heard someone, they were talking about marriage. And they looked at the older couples. They were sitting at the table and they were holding hands. And he said, "That's success."
There you go.
And I said, that's an interesting concept, because it's really more of the end of the purpose versus a scorecard saying that you actually
Check that
yeah,
off.
or what did I accumulate, or did I even pushing a needle. Success is not really, and I think you alluded to this, and people really need to understand this, it's not really even achieving necessarily all of your goals. So this is going to be me, which I'm challenging us to think about, versus finishing.
Yes.
So there's a concept of finishing strong or finishing well.
Yeah.
That's right. And so most people think, well, I wasn't successful because I didn't complete something,
didn't check that
but
goal
you
off.
did finish, right? And I'm thinking about one of the marathons that was historical. And so the person wasn't first. As a matter of fact, they fell down, and other folks came and rallied around them. And so in that regard, everybody was successful, right? In that they helped the person who fell down, and the person who fell down actually finished. So I'm also reminded of someone who says that you fail your way to success. And so people need to understand that concept. Well, it's true. So life is it's a bunch of ups and downs or failures. Or Michael Jordan, the guy who closed his eyes and made free throws, he said, I win because I failed.
Right.
And so a lot of people need to understand that success in business and success in life, particularly because when we talk about this business later on in these installments and in other areas, what is success? It truly is not, well, they're successful because they have a global operation, or they're successful because
Not about the size or the scope or whatever. It's what you're trying to do to fulfill the vision that you have for it.
Right.
It might be a very small operation. We were discussing this when you and I about leadership. You're looking at successful leaders. Is a successful leader the lady who's leading a multinational organization? Is she doing her is she quote unquote a leader? Or is it this Boy Scout leader who's investing his life every Thursday night into a handful of kids, that are going to grow up and have a productive life? You can't look at her and say she's a success and this guy's not, because he's got 10, 12-year-old kids.
Or measuring yourself, which people do so frequently. Maybe this individual got a Nobel Peace Prize, and I'm sitting over in a corner, and I'm not successful.
I'm not getting recognized for what I'm doing.
And it's not only is it not reasonable and not practical, but it's actually not the truth.
It sets you up for failure, for depression, for a lot of things emotionally and spiritually that is just not necessary. And as well as I do in our years of work together, financially, you can't compare yourself against the business down the street. You can benchmark. We'll talk about best practices and benchmarking. But if you own a small to mid-sized business, you don't need to be comparing yourself to someone else's financial success. You need to focus on what you're doing. And like we were saying earlier, principle driven, because success isn't always defined by that bottom line number or the number of employees or this and that. Because life is more about fulfillment.
Right. So
about the quality of my life. And I see so many people go into business and become miserable.
So if you were going exactly where I was heading, and I'm glad you were taking this, success would be, so we said is taking full advantage of your abilities, not what you don't have, but what you do have.
And the resources.
And that lends itself to, at the end of the day, if you draw your last breath, that I fulfilled my purpose. And it's not your purpose, it's not anyone else's purpose, but I fulfilled my purpose.
Exactly.
And the goals are different, I think, than purpose, because some of the things that I struggle with, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do in life, I'll say, well, I may not really do everything I want to do, but you're making the attempt. And I know that a great batting average people don't realize is 300 in stratospheric.
In the scope of it,
stratospheric for the ladies who are not sports, baseball is 400.
Right.
Well, what that means is 70% of the time you're missing, or 60% of the time you're not achieving whatever, because the whole goal is to hit that ball.
And what I love about the
baseball
thing is, even to get to 300, You have to play every game.
That's right.
You got to go to the game. You got to enjoy baseball. You got to play. You got to get out there and participate. So is the goal to, to achieve more than 300 or get to 400 or do something spectacular? No, the goal is to enjoy the game of baseball.
Right.
And genetically and discipline wise, you may achieve a certain thing. You may achieve one thing that is Glenn Henderson's very best, that you could get into it, and I could do that. They would be two different numbers, right?
Right.
But the thing is, we both get to enjoy the game.
Right.
It's a wonderful journey. We get a lot of fulfillment out of it. You get into business and you're all focused on just some narrow goals, and you're trying to measure yourself against what other people do. And it can be a miserable.
Yeah, who's going to be the biggest? How I'm going to have the largest, make the most profit. So I want to see if we can reduce and communicate at least some basis of agreement of what success is as we start talking about businesses.
Exactly.
Which one's successful, or even in life, who was successful, who wasn't, so that people can really have a context. And so as we bring this to conclusion, success using everything that you have. Right. And I also want to add what I know is successful, by the way, and is considered winning, and that's when you make others better.
Yes,
and so
absolutely.
when you know that you're winning, and you can really view yourself as being successful, doesn't matter how large or small that you are in business. It's called the GOAT, right? The greatest of all time. Right. And I'm really going to focus on that a little later, but the GOAT, the greatest of all time, makes other people better.
Always.
So,
always. That's always the case. You're not there for yourself.
Right.
If you're there for yourself, you probably should just be in some other kind of capacity, right? You don't want to be in business if it's about you.
Right.
It has to be about serving other people. If not, I've been in this for a long time. You know that. Small businesses all the way up to huge mega corporations. If it's about you, you're in the wrong
right.
place.
And somebody used to say, Jim, that if you get to the mountaintop alone, then it's exactly that. You're alone. But when you go with people, so it's really success as we characterize it and look at businesses, and we're going to spotlight businesses and lives,
we are.
and some of these other installments. It really is the irreducible minimum. So that's the context. So whether you can agree with it or not, but at least you know the context for which I'm speaking of is success, and that is using everything that you have. So I want you to exhaust in your business, use all of your abilities, and do that to help other folks. That do unto others as you would have them do to yourself. And so that's when you know that you're successful.
Because big is not better.
That's right.
More is not better.
Better is better, is what they tell me. So join us next time, Win with Glenn, as we talk about best practices and principles and rock solid principles that will help you in business and in life.
Thank you for joining us for the Win with Glenn video podcast. Stay connected by following and subscribing to this podcast on these platforms. Join us every week as Glenn and special guests give you the tools you need to grow and have a successful business or career.